Welcome to another ultimate reading video. You don't understand how much I've been craving making one of these videos. I feel like this is my secret channel that like only the cozy girls know about, which probably isn't true, but I have legitimately been so busy writing my book and I'm so excited because I'm making great progress, but I have been struggling to write the book and then also make main channel YouTube videos. So this channel has just gone to the wayside, but I think about it every day and I miss you guys so much and I'm so excited to just make a cozy reading vlog, an ultimate reading vlog perhaps, because I want to do everything. I want to finish the book that I'm reading. This is a Mhairi McFarland book with a very interesting cover. I got it off of Thrift Books and it's so cool. It's called It's Not Me, It's You, and it is the last book that I have in her entire backlist that I haven't read, which is crazy. But she comes out with a new book this year, and then I think there's a novella to a series that I have read that I could read. So I want to read this, and I really want to update my reading journal so bad because for 2025 I've really been slacking, and I have all the way from 2023 in this reading journal, and I just love it. Like no matter what, I will always love the reading journal. I've just been struggling for ideas of what to put in it, and I really just put so much pressure on myself to like think of these ideas because I feel bad copying other people who post content about their reading journal. I'm squeezing everything left out of my brain for my book and my videos, so when it comes to this I'm like, can I just copy someone on the internet? So I would love to get some spreads done in here because it's very lacking so far. It's a Saturday night. I just want to have a cozy time. I'm actually so close to finishing this book, so I probably want to do that first. This book is so cool though because the main character in it writes comics as a hobby, and they actually put the comics in there, which is so cool that they like really paid someone to design these, and there's not that many of them, but there's enough to feel like it's real, and it's so cool. And it's just so unique for a Mhairi McFarland book. She never really does stuff like that. It's so funny. Mhairi McFarland's books have been around not for so long, but like 2013. So her books have so many different covers, and that's why this one looks so not in the same genre as her other ones because they just have so many different covers that they've been published in. I never care about the cover because I know that Mhairi McFarland writes a great literary fiction romance subplot. It's gonna be funny, it's gonna be fast-paced, crazy things are gonna be happening on every single chapter, and it's no different with this one. She probably breaks up with someone who's cheating on her, or she was in a relationship with someone manipulative. Same in this book. Now that I'm basically explaining the plot to you, we're following Delia in this book, and she finds out that her partner of a long time has been cheating on her, and she decides to move to London with one of her best friends, and she gets a new job. She ends up working for this man who is so sinister, but like in a dumb way. Like he just lies, and he does PR for people, and he just lies, and he doesn't care, and it's becoming this whole different thing with a bunch of different characters, and it's so crazy and fast-paced as per usual. And she also writes comics in her free time, so that's what those are. I'm on chapter 60, page 428. Almost done. I'm so excited to finish a book. I haven't been able to get that much reading done while writing the book, so I'm just very excited to be doing this. Let's get into it. This line took me so off guard. She remembered the wisdom that martinis were like boobs. One was not enough and three too many. Very interesting. Okay, I filled in my January and February spreads, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't like them that much, like maybe at all. Because I only read 4 books in each month, I wanted to write more text and kind of journal about the books and what I thought, but pretty much everything about the spreads is off. The colors, my handwriting, the text bubbles. But you live and you learn, and that's totally fine. It's totally fine. We're gonna make up for it and do some cuter spreads. That's my goal, at least. But something that I do think is cute is this new phone case that I put on my phone, which is from Berga, who is sponsoring this video. I wanted to match my outfit to this phone case. I feel so chic and cute. It's so crazy how much a phone case can really up your vibe. I also did their screen protector, which I really had been needing. But not only is it cute, it's protective, which is an absolute must for me because I drop my phone at least 4 times a week. I also got this one for the summer, and then this one is one of their elite cases, and these are all designed by their in-house designers who have experience in the fashion industry, and I feel like you can definitely tell. They also have these ring holders, which I feel like is perfect to put on a Kindle case. So you could stick it on like your phone or your Kindle and then hold it. And they also have Kindle cases now, which is so cute. And they gave me a deal and a code to give to you guys. So you can get 4 phone cases, but only pay for 2. And when you use my link and use code HaleyX15, you're gonna get an extra 15% off your order. So check that out in the description if you're interested. And thank you to Berga for sponsoring this video. That's enough of that, isn't it? Okay, it's It's like 2 days later now, and I finished It's Not Me, It's You. I love reviewing Mhairi McFarland books, and I love reading them. What is my review for this one? Let me look up when she wrote this. 2014. This must have been her third book, which is really interesting. This was her very first book. This was her second book, and I guess this was her third. As you can see, the covers are so different. So funny, but I feel like her second book had writing and story and plot that was just as good as her new stuff. Her new stuff is impeccable. She really has just honed in her craft over the years. This one, of course, I enjoyed it because it has her humor, it has her writing, it has everything that I love about her, but I could definitely feel that this was one of her first works, whereas in like her second book, I wouldn't have guessed that it was her second one if I had to put them on a timeline. So it's not necessarily a negative thing, it's just an observation. Another observation I have is that this one is so focused on just the main character's life, very literary fiction, and we don't even really dive into the romance until like the last 50, 60 pages. But I do think it was a really cool exploration of what can happen to a relationship when it's really long term and then someone is unfaithful. And I feel like she did a really good job of making people three-dimensional in this book because you really don't ever see anyone as just good or just bad. Even the villain in this book, which I feel like this book had the strongest villain of any of her stories, and even he had some qualities where I just remembered something else that happened in the book that was really sad. Low-key, you can skip this trigger warning if you think it's gonna be a spoiler, but trigger warning because her dog dies in this book, and I was like, I feel like you should know that just in case you've gone through that recently, and if you have, I am sorry, but I feel like that was my first time reading that in this book. I feel like I like this book because I love Mhairi McFarland, and if you're not a mega fan, she has so many good books to read. Recently, she has a new one coming out soon, so if it would be your first one, I would not suggest this one. If you haven't read Between Us, Just Last Night, Mad About You, all three of those first, then I would recommend all of those first. I've literally read so many at this point. Let me show you how many I've read. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No way. This is so satisfying. I can't even hold them all. Did I count that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've read 10 of her books. I'm officially her biggest fan. I feel like I post about her so much, and she does follow me on Instagram, which is quite the honor, but I feel bad for her because I'm like, you probably want to take a restraining order out on me because this is a little bit insane. As an aspiring author, it's what I would hope people would do with my books. So if you haven't given one of them a try, I highly recommend, as you can see. And then it came to the point of deciding to choose what book to read next, which is always an exhilarating moment because there's so many things on your TBR, and once you finish a book, you're like, my world is open to anything, any direction I want to take this in, but it's also overwhelming because what direction should you take it in? And I really want to read books that have been on this shelf right here on my TBR, especially books that have been on there for over a year. It's just getting a little bit ridiculous at this point. So I finally chose one, which is The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This is a fantasy romance, and there's actually a very severe thunder hailstorm last night, and I was in the mood for a fantasy. I feel like I haven't read a book that's high stakes in so long. You guys are hearing this crazy thunderstorm right now. Perfect weather. Oh my gosh, it's so loud. Cozy vibes to start a new fantasy book. And I started this, and I'm not gonna lie, on page 2 I almost DNF'd it because I didn't like the prose, which I do think just from writing my own book, the way that I look at sentences every single day, all day, and I'm just being very meticulous about my own and like judging every single line because I wrote it. Sometimes I feel like that applies when I read books, and then I kind of get way too in my head instead of getting like lost in the story. So I pushed through and I kept reading, and I got to page like 40, I think, which is kind of a lot. That's almost like an hour of reading, and I love it so far. It's very high stakes, and I'm just really in the mood for a fantasy, and the way that this world is described is so cool because she has to marry someone from a different kingdom because they have access to all of the trading routes because they're the only ones who have access via bridge or something. So this girl, Laura, or Lara, I don't know how to say it, has to go to his kingdom, which she's been trained to do for her entire life, spy on them, and basically try to take over. So it's an arranged marriage, and the way that the worlds are described is really cool and really pretty, and like if you look up fantasy world on Pinterest, I feel like this is what comes up, and it looks so cool in my head. So I'm really excited to be reading my first fantasy book in months. But tonight I'm gonna go watch Mickey 17 with Ryan, so I'm very excited. I'm also very nervous because I love Robert Pattinson, but it's gonna be a little bit gory. But after that I might read, and I need to still update my reading journal. I have not had any attention span when it comes to my reading journal, which is so weird, but we're gonna get to it. Okay, so a quick tour so far of my 2025 reading journal. This is the entire year's calendar, and then I'm gonna highlight what days I read which book, which is completely ripped off from Katie is Reading, so credit to her. Then we have the Hall of Fame best books of every month. We already covered those pages. Then we have my March reading wrap up, which I think is really cute, and my April TBR. And this might be my favorite page. This is the new releases of 2025. And then I also wanted to make an A to Z reading challenge. And now I wanted to make a new physical TBR reading log. And then I also am copying Katie's Reading again for my April spread, where you do this kind of peekaboo paper situation. And I will show you the final product later in the video. I'm now 236 pages through The Bridge Kingdom. I actually paused at page 200, filmed asking strangers their favorite book, then reading it. So I read 3 books in between this one, and now I'm finally back to it, and I'm so excited to dive in because all of those books were, I mean, you'll just see in the video, but I'm excited for fantasy romance, which I haven't been in the mood for months. I think I said that already. I'm kind of excited that I'm back in my fantasy era because there's plenty of books on my bookshelves. There's actually a lot of fantasy books on there, so I'm glad I'm back in the mood. It's the next day, and I am about to finish this book right now. I'm so excited to finish a fantasy book. I'm on page 300, and there are 340 pages, and I've loved this book so far, which I'm so glad because I've had this on my shelf for feels like 2 years. Probably not, but a really long time, to the point where I just for some reason viewed it as a book that wouldn't be good, which just because a book has sat on your shelf for a long time doesn't mean it's not gonna be good. I don't know why my brain thinks like that, but I'm very excited because I feel like this is gonna kickstart my fantasy era again, which is just great. Maybe it's because it's been raining for April, and I just feel like rain and books, especially this book, if you are going through some storms or some rain, this is a great book to read because there's so much water scenery and imagery. I'm gonna go finish this right now. Okay, I'm about to go upstairs and get ready for bed, so I'm a little sleepy, but I finished The Bridge Kingdom and I really enjoyed this. This is a forced marriage. Wait, what's that trope called? It's not marriage of convenience because she's from a different kingdom and she has to get married to this guy from another kingdom. They are controlled by a bridge, and whoever controls the bridge basically controls all the other kingdoms. So they have a very contentious relationship, and she has been trained her entire life to become a spy, basically, once she gets married off, to figure out how to overthrow this kingdom, but it's an enemies to lovers. That's gonna be a little bit complicated. I really liked the setting in this though. I loved the imagery of the water and the boats and the beautiful, like kind of suspended in the air and waterfall type of kingdom. I just think that's the coolest thing ever, and I could picture it in my head as a movie. And that type of imagery is just like my favorite of all time, and I feel like it stems from me loving Tinkerbell as a child. Something about those two things just connect to my brain. I don't know. So that honestly carried a lot for me at the beginning because the sentence structures were a little bit dense, I will admit. So at first I was like, I don't think I can get back into fantasy. It got better. I feel like 10% in, and then the middle was so great. And then the last 40 pages that I told you guys I was about to read kind of fell off a cliff. Like a lot of plot happens and you realize, oh, this is not just one book. This is going to be a series, which I looked it up. I thought it was going to be like maybe 3 books max. She hasn't even released the 5th book yet. And she actually, I think it releases this month. 5 books is crazy. And I don't even know if that's the end of it, but yeah, that was pretty shocking to me. But so much happens in 40 pages, but not really like on page. Like it'll just be like 3 weeks later, she got here. So felt a little rushed in the end there. You can tell it's nighttime because Spock's trying to make his bed. That's just if I'm being picky. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars. If you want to get into fantasy enemies to lovers, I feel like this one is a good one to go with because it's nothing too crazy. I feel like she wasn't great at writing the political side of things. Doesn't seem like her strong suit. I feel like it was more so the imagery and the setting, to be honest. And then there was like one spice scene, but it wasn't a spicy book. I'm really excited to get back into fantasy now. So now I'm looking at my shelves thinking about what I'm gonna read next. Taking my bookmark out of it. I made space on my bookshelf so that I could put the books that I've read in 2025 in order on the shelf. And then these are some of my TBR books. We get to put this one on the shelf. Cute. And then I just have some little journals over here occupying the space until I fill it up. It's actually wild that I like fantasy again because there's so many books in my TBR that are fantasy. So that's why I haven't been getting through my TBR. Over here on this shelf, I feel like it's all fantasy, but I think I want to read this one. Lightlark by Alex Astor. I've had this on my shelf for at least a year, I feel like. Ooh, it has those pretty pages like Powerless. I follow her on Instagram and I feel like she documents a lot of her writing process. I actually remember watching a TikTok video that she made about not editing while you write, and that helped me so much. I feel kind of like a connection and backstory to this author, so I want to at least read the first chapter in bed tonight, and hopefully I get hooked and finish this because this has been on my shelf unread for so long, and I like the concept of this. It's like a sort of like a Hunger Games game that only takes place every 100 years, and that's pretty much all I know. So I'll let you know if I find out more. Last time I updated, I said I'm gonna read one little chapter before bed, and now I'm on page 205, and it's going well, but I found a relic in this book. On page 3, there's a little bookmark. Wait, the person who's in this room gifted me these bookmarks. That's a perfect segue. Bree's in town. Bestie Bree is in town now, and she's also filming a reading vlog, so.
We're booktubers choose what I read for a week, so guess who picks one of my books?
Yep, that's true. So you'll have to go watch that one, but we're about to go to a coffee shop, or a bookstore coffee shop, and keep reading, but I really like this book so far. It's kind of like if this Caraval series and Once Upon a Broken Heart spin-off series, the fates from these books were in the Hunger Games, if that makes sense. They're like me explaining fantasy. Bree does not read any fantasy ever.
It's like the closest to fantasy I'm getting.
Basically, there's these 6 different realms, and the rulers of each of those realms get put into these games to break the curse on all the realms.
Whoa.
Hopefully we finish it at the bookstore. What are you gonna keep reading?
This was picked by a different booktuber, and it is historical fiction, but also fantasy and romance. A lot of things are going on, but basically the Greek gods control the fate of mortals' relationships, and they're describing the love. But this has like a 4.3 or something crazy on Goodreads from like 60,000 ratings, so I think it is very popular, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm only 95 pages in, so I have to grind.
I'm so happy you're reading that though, because that, oh my gosh, has been on my TBR shelf for so long. And I read like 2 pages and then I got scared because it just feels like such a long book. It's honestly not.
Oh, what? I was gonna say, I like always, when a book is this fat, I go to the back to see how many pages, not to read anything crazy. Yeah. But 460 something, I'm like,
oh.
That's a lot.
But the font is big because these are huge paperbacks.
Yeah, that's true. I rarely will buy a book on Kindle if I have the physical copy because it feels redundant, even though it would make my life easier, especially at night. Yeah. So I won't get it on Kindle, but if I had it on Kindle, I almost think I would read it faster because you're not aware of how big a book is. You're just like, reading time, book bestie, reading bookstore, cafe time.
Let's go. Okay, I know I already flipped through my 2025 reading journal so far this year, but I kind of completed the pages a little bit more, so I filled in this March text bubble. I just had to fill up some space. So I just wrote down what videos I filmed in March and what books I had to read for those videos. And by the time I'm finishing this vlog, we're already much into April, so I've been highlighting very subtly behind the books that I've been reading on my April TBR, and I'm doing really good so far. I have 5 out of 9 read, and I'm reading this one currently. And then I started filling out my A to Z reading challenge, which is really gratifying. I have 13 filled in so far, and I've read like 22 books this year, which means a lot of them have the same first letter. And then I wanted to make an updated physical TBR log so that I can write down every single book that I have on my physical TBR and then cross it off. I copied my YA fantasy series TBR that I made way back in the day. We've got like 3 years of reading journal stuff in here, so actually filling this in is probably gonna take a bit of time. Here's how the April spread turned out. It was a little rocky there for a second, but I think I saved it. And then I already started putting all the books that I've read in April so far. This is the most amount of books that I've read in a month this entire year, so this is very gratifying to look at. And like I said, this is a complete ripoff of Katie's reading, so please go watch her videos because she genuinely has the most beautiful reading journal I've ever seen in my entire life. I copied this exact page, and then she had a calendar on the back, so what did I do? Made a calendar on the back. And then I have my TBR and then the actual books that I've been reading so far. This page is not done yet, obviously, but we got a lot done in the reading journal that I needed to catch up on, and I really like it. And now I need to review Lightlark, which is really funny because by the time I'm filming this review, I've actually already read the second book in the series as well, and I'm currently reading her romance book. I'm kind of on an Alex Astor tear right now. I've always seen her TikToks and stuff promoting her books, and I don't know why I was just so late to the game of reading them, but I think she's a great author. Like, this one was so fast-paced and so fun to read, and it can be intimidating to get into the fantasy genre in the first place or for me to get back into it, and this was just exactly what I was craving because it has the fun game element. I love when there's trials, and I love when there's whimsical magic where it's cutesy and they have, you know, different realms wearing different outfits and beautiful dresses. Like, there's still that kind of light-hearted element to it, even though the stakes are super high. And this has a love triangle, and it's basically between 2 male characters who are the epitome of like my favorites of each of those like typecasts. Like, the golden-haired king, and then the more like bad boy, I'm trying to think of a different word for that, and it's not coming to me, so that's what I use, who you just have a soft spot for still, even though you probably shouldn't. And yeah, the end was so crazy, and I'm just so happy that I'm like finally into another fantasy series. I think I'm gonna give this one 4.25 stars, but I love it a lot. Obviously, read the second book already, so now I need to read the third, and 2 more books come out next year or this year, but they're both from one of the love interests' point of views, which is so fun. So yeah, we got some good reading done in this video. I got back into my fantasy era, we got back into my reading journal era, and we got back into posting on this vlog channel, which that was a painful 4 months. So thanks for being patient with me. In the meantime, you can follow me on Instagram because I have a really big announcement coming this summer, which will probably explain my absence better. But until next time, I love you guys. Bye!